welcome to Road to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means and the other is just along for the ride. Mike, Lewis, say what's up.
What up? What up? We're without Aaron this week, so we're a little directionless, but I think it'll be fine.
We'll try and keep this on the rails as best we can. Sometimes when we've done this, it's like, wait, this is a great, there's something going here, and then other times it's like, we need Aaron. But he is a man with a family, and I don't know how he does all the stuff he does. If you're a Blake Street Banter supporter, you have to recognize just how much Aaron does for BSB while having a family. I can't quite wrap my head around it, but
he's got some.
We're here. We got to cover.
He's got some big household. We talk about Amador later, but his kids are making their first baseball debut, so that's pretty big.
Yeah. Because if you guys can tune in, MLB TV, Aaron's kids, T-ball debut. We'll have to be hearing about that pretty soon.
I'm hearing 80 out of 80 power. So.
Yeah, they're using the kind of those foam bats and just crushing. It's going down. But speaking of debuts, we got to kick off the pod. I think we'd be pressed not to mention, of course, Adael Amador making his MLB debut. He's playing his second game right now as we speak. Things haven't gone great. We saw a first hit. We saw a stolen base. What are you sort of expecting? We won't get too deep into it. I know everyone else is talking about it, but what are you expecting?
Yeah, we talked about this off air a little bit, and I said I think he's going to struggle massively. And that's not his talent thing. It's AA. A lot of people, they were saying, oh, he was on fire, but it was the first time he ever showed life in AA. So it wasn't really he was on fire. It was oh, he's finally here. So he definitely, I don't think he was ready for this, but I think he's good enough to where this won't stunt his development. And I think his floor is pretty high. He's going to play good defense. We'll see when Brendan Rodgers comes back. I don't think this is going to be a long, he plays the rest of the year. I think he'll be back in AA soon, but it's fun.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird situation because you look at the Rockies' 40-man roster. They had nobody else on the 40-man roster they could have called up there. Yanquiel Fernandez is sitting there, but he is even less ready for the big leagues, and he's an outfielder. The Rockies needed that infielder, so this was sort of a little bit by necessity. So we're hoping that Amador, there are those positive signs. It's a weird situation though to bring up your top prospect kind of by necessity, and you can't put that oh, this was a bad decision. The Rockies would have had to cut somebody off the 40-man roster to do something else, so they sort of had to do this. But I was thinking a guy who could have filled in at second base if Brendan Rodgers really only going to miss 10 days. Greg Jones, I think, could kind of fill in at second base a little bit. You have Alan Trejo, who his play has been a little not satisfactory, but Greg Jones is super athletic. He can play shortstop. So I'm confused a little bit why he's not getting those looks at second base and why he's on the roster and just not playing. We have Jake Cave in the lineup and Greg Jones can't get out there.
Yeah, Greg Jones, I'm from Tampa, so everybody around me kind of that follows baseball knows Greg Jones. He was always kind of just blocked in the Rays or, farm system that just has so many good players. He can kind of do everything for you. He came in, I think he played right field, and he started at right field in his first start. And I'm not even going to look it up. I can almost guarantee you he's never played right field in his time in the minor leagues, or if he did, it was very minimal. I don't even have to look it up. But he's a center field shortstop. He has value kind of even if, every team probably wants a guy that can do both. And he's got speed and can play good defense. Greg Jones is going to be a fan favorite if he gets a good, 100 at-bats.
Yeah, he's someone that I'm pretty high on. I know that trade now doesn't look great. Joe Rock is thriving. Greg Jones has not necessarily thrived, but I do think his floor as a big leaguer is there. I think he will be a big leaguer. Was he going to be a good one? Who knows? But that guy's going to swing his way into some home runs. And as you mentioned, the athletic value is so there. So really hoping that he can actually get in the lineup a little bit. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be down. He's going to be the first guy, one of the first guys down when players start to get healthy again. But he's super fun. So I would love to see some second base action, just kind of spice up that value a little bit. But yeah, Greg Jones, Tampa legend. But before we kind of start heading down the minor league rundown, we want to hit this at the top. In the Northwest League, Jake Snider, who everyone at this point kind of knows Jake Snider, he has been ridiculously good in the minor leagues. I think he leads all of minor league baseball slugging. So one of like the major. He leads all of minor league baseball in it. So he and Connor Staine swept the Northwest League Player of the Week honors. We're going to get into both those guys a little bit more down the stretch as we hit Spokane. But that doesn't happen very often where a team is able to run away with both Player of the Week honors in their league. So Jake Snider, Connor Staine doing work in Spokane. But we got to slide down to Albuquerque, and what are we thinking about Albuquerque? It's a broken record at this point, but what's going on?
It was a really rough week. They go to Sacramento, which has a pitcher-friendly little park there, pitcher-friendly in the PCL. So it was definitely offense struggled. I don't think they had double-digit hits in any game. But we saw Noah Davis went out there and shoved for 5 innings. It was 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 5 Ks. He was actually their player of the week for us. He did great, but NoJo's rehabbing, so it was still kind of fun to watch. He's swinging well. I almost wonder if they're waiting for him to catch fire. Then it's like, hey, you're on fire. Go play every day in the MLB. They're going to wait for him to get momentum, which Greg Jones – I'll go back to Greg Jones real quick. I think he played 2 games after rehab and then got called up to MLB. So what a weird path. Just no momentum, I guess, for Greg Jones. I think I'm correct on that. But we all kind of saw Shunk, I think, was probably the best hitter, 6 hits. And all around, this was a rough week. 1-5, had a couple 8th inning collapses, or we lost on a pass ball. So stuff like that where it's just
Yeah, and I mean, they were very Rockies this week in not being able to hit, as you mentioned. We had Drew Romo, Coco Montes, Grant Levine, Sam Hilliard, Willie McIver, and Hunter Stovall, who are all guys we know. Some of those guys are very legit prospects. You think of Romo, you think of Levine. I think they totaled for 7 hits or something as a group. It was a lot of 1-hit weeks. I think one or two of those guys did not have a hit this week. So the core of that team just didn't have it this week. Hoping that, especially someone like Drew Romo, we just saw Elias Diaz injured tonight. Never want to see that turn into anything, but if it does turn into an actual absence, we're on Drew Romo watch. I think we probably would be on Hunter Goodman backup catcher watch, but Drew Romo's going to be in the mix if there's an injury there. So hoping he gets back on track.
Yeah, I didn't know Diaz got hurt, taken out of the game. I want to give Romo his due. I think Romo's one of the most underrated prospects in baseball. He came out with elite defense. That's his thing, and he's still hitting. So I think he'll be a positive WAR player. So hopefully he does get the call up soon. I don't want it to be because of injury, but I hope he gets his cup of coffee.
It's kind of a weird situation though too, because we talked about the 40-man at the top with Amador. The Rockies they're not really in a position to make a spot, because if you're going to bring a hitter up, typically you're going to remove a hitter from the 40-man, and the next guy would maybe be Alan Trejo, but with Brendan Rodgers down, you don't really have the flexibility to do that. So, that's why I'm thinking Hunter Goodman will just be that emergency guy, forced into that role for now. But if it turned out to be something extended for Diaz, and seriously, I hope that's not the case. Then maybe that sort of opens that door. But we'll see. That'd be the most fun thing. Even more, in my opinion, than Amador would be seeing Romo at the big league level. Seeing spring training games doesn't really do it justice as to what this guy might be able to do starting, 4 or 5 games a week at the big league level. That's where you really start to see this is what that guy's going to bring to this roster, and if he can turn that catcher position around.
Yeah, I think he's going to bat 220 in respect, just respectfully, he's going to bat 220. What he's going to do is going to be past the stat sheet. The pitcher ERA might be a little lower, or he's going to, guys won't steal as much. So it's stuff like that we won't be able to see in the box score.
Yeah, that'll be very exciting, and hopefully in terms of that game management, you mentioned Noah Davis, really solid start, 5 shutout innings. He's kind of working his way back towards the big leagues. Tanner Gordon, another guy, came over in that Pierce Johnson trade last year, the second guy with Victor Vodnik. He had a solid start. He's been working back from an injury. He's someone at the end of last year, he worked well through AAA and was kind of pushing at the big league doorstep a little bit. We're not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but he went 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts for Tanner Gordon. So Drew Romo maybe played a little bit of a part in that. And then one final pitching note there in Albuquerque, Evan Justice was kind of silently activated from the injured list. I think it was June 5th. He was activated. The Rockies optioned him well at the beginning of the season, but he's been rehabbing for a while. So now he's healthy. We'll see if the Rockies need a reliever. Evan Justice is now ready to roll. dropping down to Hartford, I mean, there's a lot of bullpen stuff happening in Hartford. Wasn't first in our rundown, but on the topic of bullpen stuff, a lot of dudes pitching well for Hartford, and a lot of it comes down to the bat missing. Who is that guy that really stands out to you the most? I mean, 3 guys really pitched well this week, but I mean, I think I know who you might go with, but who's kind of that guy that really is catching your eye lately?
I'm going to go Brendan Hardy. I think that's the guy you might have thought I was going to go with. Ever since May 9th, he had a brutal outing May 9th. I don't think he even got out a single out. So his ERA was like 11. And ever since then, he's worked it. I mean, 9.2 innings, 1 earned run, 12 Ks. He's been basically perfect. And bullpens in minor league baseball are they're interesting. Sometimes you go through some stretches where you just can't get an out. But Brendan Hardy's been a really reliable dude. You get 3 outs, and then we saw this week. Bullpen was huge. We were down early for a couple games, and we came back in a couple.
Yeah, I mean that the rest of that bullpen was very key too. And yeah, Hardy, really happy to see him finding a groove. We got to share his story on the pod here, and such a fun, great dude. Like, I'm super glad that he's in the organization, able to bring some life, and he's a good pitcher too. So I'm happy that he's settling in. But Jaden Hill, Juan Mejia, and Bryce McGowan this week, all just missing bats. They combined for 16 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings. They did give up 5 runs. I think there were a few home runs that those guys gave up, but those 3 have become kind of the core of that bullpen. Obviously, we know Jaden Hill, Juan Mejia is on the 40-man roster, and Bryce McGowan is someone we've given a lot of love to. And those 3 guys, along with Alec Barger, who came over for Brad Hand last year, that Hartford bullpen is good. Like, I don't know if there's like an MLB closer there. I mean, maybe Jaden Hill, but there are a lot of guys that are going to be big league relievers on that team. So that's something huge to be watching out for.
Yeah, a lot of dudes that will have options, and good teams, they love these guys that are young with a lot of options that they can kind of bounce back and forth. And we have a lot of those guys that can fill that role.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are probably a little bit jealous of Angel Chavi. He's gotten to make a couple of those appearances. Little rough spots for him, but I was thinking like Juan Mejia, the fellow 40-man guy, he's probably a little bit jealous that they took Chavi first to make that MLB debut. So Juan Mejia, he's got a little bit of extra stuff to pitch for. Turning to the rotation a little bit, Mason Albright. We have been really hyper-focused in on him each week doing this pod. Like, he's in a groove. Like, what are you kind of seeing? Where are your expectations going with Mason Albright?
The beginning of the year, I didn't have really any expectations. He was super young. He's like 21 going into the season. So it's like, I think he was like the youngest starting pitcher in the Eastern League, other than I think Ricky Tiedemann. So going in, I'm like, just keep learning. And he's clearly, I mean, he started off pretty rough, and now he's every single month it's been better and better. And this week, I mean, we saw 10.2 innings pitched this week, 4 earned runs. Just, it's insane. Like, that's stuff that I didn't think he could do after the first couple of starts of the season.
Yeah, it was looking just odd that the Rockies made that assignment. I think he got there I think he got the promotion to high A last year. So they just decided he's not going to pitch much in high A. We're going to send him straight to double A. Really aggressive assignment, but ERA is now 4.53 on the season. I mean, that's good really for anyone. But yeah, you mentioned he's like 21 and a half. Most players in double A are at least 22. Most though are 24. So this is a guy who's like 2.5 years younger than the average player. And he's finding a groove. Like, he hasn't gotten to that point where he's great yet, but he's proving, okay, I've settled at double A. Like, my floor now is probably an MLB pitcher in some capacity. He still some ways to go. The Rockies aren't going to be in a rush with him, but he's gotten on the radar of being an MLB pitcher. And I'm not sure the Rockies expected him to kind of get this fast on the timeline. So he's someone to be watching for this offseason. He's not going to get added to the 40-man, but this offseason will be given some opportunities heading into spring training. So Mason Albright, we'll be keeping you posted on him. And another lefty in that rotation, Carson Palmquist. It's been sort of the opposite coin. Amazing start for Palmquist. We all know that. And then this injury thing popped up. And that what is that kind of done? And just, do you think he's going to turn this around, sooner than later?
So with Palmquist, the start where he got his injury was a really rough start. So I almost wonder if it started before that. His last 2 starts have been his worst 2 starts. This last start he had doesn't even look that bad because there's a bunch of errors in there, and he allowed 6, but only 3 were earned runs. So his ERA didn't go up as much as it probably should have. He was all over the place. He was reckless. He wasn't locating anything. Gave him 2 home runs. I think it was like 3 walks to 3 Ks. He was kind of all over the place. Even some of the outs, it was like lucky that was an out because that was a pretty badly placed pitch. But it happens. I really hope it's not an injury thing. I hope it's just he isn't in the groove of things. But I think he'll be fine long term. But last 2 starts have been pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, these sorts of things always raise questions. And I think with him just being a low power guy, and his walk rate was surprising to me. I think he's running like a 12% walk rate, which usually you want to see like a good starter around like 9%. So 12 is up there. And someone with less power in his arsenal, he's got a lot of other things going besides the power. But his control, I just think all year has been a little bit off. I think he's going for strikeouts in some ways more than he maybe needs to, and he could be that guy that just attacks the zone. We saw that in spring training with him. That one start that everyone really got familiar with Carson Palmquist, he attacked the zone a lot, and the only reason he was getting deep in counts is because guys are fouling pitches off. So I haven't gotten to kind of see any of his last few starts, so hoping that it really is kind of a get that arm back, get everything back in tune and exactly as it was before the injury. So we will be hoping for that. We got to jump though to arguably our most fun topic of the pod. And I know one that you're going to be very ready to go in on. Ryan Ritter is ascending. He had 2 homers this week. He walked twice, only struck out once, boosted his OPS to 879. I don't know. I didn't, this is on the spot. Where roughly are you ranking him though in the Rockies, top prospect list?
He's top 10 for sure. I think. I'd rank him around like 7 to 9. I'd have to have him in front of me, but 7 to 9. I think I'm not like, I'm not going to be like delusional here about his value. But he did hit a home run off Garrett Cole, and not many players can say that they did that.
Yeah, and actually got to mention on that, because I was on the Twitter a little bit while Aaron was in St. Louis this weekend. We post the Ryan Ritter video, and some guy responds saying, "How about he does it against this guy," alluding to Garrett Cole, when he's not in his second live outing in like 2 months or something. And it's like, well, that's literally what a rehab assignment is for. And Garrett Cole is the best pitcher on the planet. So no matter what the context is, Ryan Ritter hit a homer off of him. That kind of, for me, has been the deal sealer this week was as a whole, that, okay, this guy, yeah, he is a very legit prospect. He's not just, he's going to crack the roster as a backup infielder or something. He's very much in play to be, a high-end utility guy, potentially getting starts, often. So Ryan Ritter has really jumped up. And I think, yeah, I toss in the rundown. Is he a top 10 guy? I think he's probably right around there. You said 7 to 9. I'd probably say like 9 to 12 or something. Yeah, he's certainly jumped up a lot coming into the season. I think any prospect list had him like in the high teens, maybe low 20s. So he's risen a ton, arguably the biggest riser in the Rockies system this year. I mean, I saw that OPS and I was like, there's just no way. How did that happen?
And it keeps rising to every single week, it feels like.
Yeah, it's been a big shock. Did not see that coming. And another big shock, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, Sterling Thompson. He has had a rough go of it. 255 OPS this week. He struck out 10 times, walked just once. I mean, there's clearly something. I mean, he's in a slump. We all know that. There's something off with his timing, his approach. When do we start to get worried about Sterling Thompson?
I'm already worried about Sterling Thompson because I think hitting, that's going to be his thing. And he doesn't, like Ryan Ritter, if he goes into a slump, it's like, well, he's still playing good defense and on a valuable position. So, like, it's okay if you slump. With Thompson, you're not doing that. You're probably stuck at first base in the MLB unless you get some defense improvement. But so he's got to hit. Like, that's kind of just – he's not hitting. That's kind of it's been probably longer than a slump. It's been a couple of weeks now where it's just like just not doing it, taking a lot of strikeouts. So I'm really worried about Thompson. This is a college hitter, so he's already kind of older. I mean, my red flag's already up. Yeah,
I mean, and it's so weird because he's coming off a really good season last year where he got to Double-A. He had like 7 home runs in a month and a half. He went to the fall league, and kind of weird in the fall league, though. He didn't hit for power, but he was drawing a lot of walks and getting it. He was just putting the ball in play a ton, getting a lot of hits. So coming into the season, I mean, Sterling Thompson's currently on MLB's top 100 prospect list. like the arrow was like, it was a rocket going up, not just an arrow, it was a rocket going up for Sterling Thompson, a guy that doesn't really have a defensive, future for the most part, was a top 100 prospect. That's impressive, but it's as poor of a start as he could possibly have. Got to trust the talent. That's why I'm not quite getting worried yet. It is a really high talent player. Like, he doesn't chase that many pitches. He makes a lot of contacts still. I mean, this week was weird though. 10 strikeouts for a guy like him. That is something that does start to raise, the flags. I don't know. For me, it's like a yellow one right now, but we are getting into like weird territory where if by the middle of this month, give it another week or two, if he's not showing some signs, like the Rockies might have to be like, do we put him on the developmental list or tag him with an injury and just kind of have him work some things out? Those sorts of things just become possibilities.
Yeah, it's definitely worrisome. I don't think he'll be on the top 100, and I think they make it in like one more month. I think he'll be off that, but it sucks, man, because he's a pure hitter and he's not really getting the results.
Yeah, and speaking of the top 100, for narrative purposes, really hoping MLB doesn't update it till after the draft, like well after the draft. So like we get the idea that, we have Sterling Thompson in the top 100, and we just drafted someone who also goes in the top 100.
Top 15 guy. It's like,
yeah,
Amador, top 15 guy. Yeah. No, it could be really fun after the draft.
Yeah, like 100% could be. That's what we need. Yeah, narrative ball. That's what we're playing out here. But someone else who's in, I don't know if he's in MLB's top 100 right now. Yanquiel Fernandez, is he still in the top 100?
Yeah,
okay.
Scouts. Yank is funny because the scouts love him and his production isn't really there. But if you see, we'll talk about him in depth a little, like right after this. But if you see him hit a home run, like it just flies off the bat. I know that's like a stereotypical thing to say about a player that isn't really good, but I mean, it just completely flies off the bat. I mean, I can see why scouts love him.
Yeah, I mean, it is like game ready MLB power. Like, it's been kind of a weird year where he's clearly working on things as a hitter. Like, he realized last year, okay, my approach isn't working. I need to fix that. And so that's been the focus right now, is cut the strikeouts, put the ball in play a little bit more. And then once he's established and more comfortable, maybe he's going to start, that home run barrage. So that's really what I'm hoping for. But I think even with a 747 OPS right now, I think his stock has jumped pretty significantly for me. Like, we know the power is there. That's never going to go away. But he needed to show he can handle double-A pitching, and he's done that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's gone. I think it's probably stayed the same for me because he doesn't really play defense, so he's stuck to a corner. So you're going to have to elevate your offense even higher if you want to play in the MLB, at least regular at-bats. So, but, I mean, yeah, he can still do it. Scouts love him for it. Those guys are smart, so I'll take those guys' word for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's MLB skills there. I mean, he's got that arm, too. That thing's he's like a seventh grade thrower. But another outfielder that he's roaming alongside, someone that we have to be asking, like, is this guy a big leaguer now? I mean, and not like right now, but is this guy progressing as a big leaguer? That's Braden Ward. He stole 5 bags this week. He hit a home run. Kind of that scrappy guy, not swinging for the fences. He hit a home run. And then he has his OPS in Hartford. I hate saying the 4-digit OPSs. It's 4 1s. It's 1-1-1-1-1 OPS in Hartford through 18 games. I mean, it's 18 games, but he was doing, the same thing in Spokane. So Braden Ward is like that energy guy. Like, those guys don't grow on trees. Like, he was not a high draft pick. He was like a late day 3 pick back in 2021, I think. Those guys don't grow on trees, though. The ones that can functionally play, speed, defense, contact. Like, he's got that going for him. And the Rockies don't really have another guy like that. So Braden Ward's, there's excitement there. Like, what are your thoughts right now? When do you think we might be really thinking about Braden Ward as a big leaguer?
I mean, it could be soon. He was on the pod a little while back. He said basically like he doesn't really swing for home runs, and then he already has a couple in Double-A. So it's, I mean, even when he's not trying, I guess he's hit home runs. But he's fun, man. He gets on base. He got a hit off Garrett Cole. He's always smiling, so that's always fun to see, and it's just an easy guy to root for.
Yeah, I love looking at his his like MILB.com picture, because he just has like the biggest smile, like clearly very intentional. But like that is what he embodies, and yeah, you're right on the money. He is like one of the easier guys to root for. But like a lot of guys that play like him, they're just like never hitting home runs. I think that's what kind of adds to his quality. Like, he's a 5 home run guy, which that sounds like nothing, but when you're doing everything else really well and your game's not built around power, 5 home runs, like that adds another element to your game that here and there you're going to do it.
Yeah, when we say like no power, I usually think of like Jonathan Daza, but I think Ward he'll sneak a couple if he plays like a full season in the MLB. He'll definitely have a couple, like 7 to 10, which is, hey, that's not bad.
One, and speaking of Jonathan Daza, I kind of like that he gives us another shot at a player like that, the expectations aren't going to be high with the bat, but he's a cerebral baseball player. Not to say that Jonathan Daza wasn't, but Jonathan Daza, was not super polished with the bat. Like, he was swinging at a ton of pitches. Braden Ward seems like a mature at bat with a lot of those same qualities as someone like Jonathan Daza. So the opportunity to get another player that can be that fourth outfielder, I love guys like that. They get me, excited about their profile for kind of no reason. Like, they're not those huge impact players, but they're a lot of fun. So Braden Ward, we are a certified Braden Ward fan club over here. And yeah, keep your eyes on him. But we got to roll down to Spokane, kind of his stomping grounds. Speaking of Braden Ward, he enjoyed playing there. He's not there anymore, but they're still rolling. And the first topic we got to hit on, and we've talked about the big two all year, the pitchers, Chase Dollander, Sean Sullivan. This week, it's not because just of this week. This is a guy that has shown a ton of talent, in his college career and his pro career. Connor Staine, does he make this a big three in that rotation?
I feel bad because I do the player of the week for the each team, and I completely forgot about him. I made it Chase Dollander, but it should have been Connor Staine. I feel really bad about it, but I think he does. Connor Staine reminds me a lot of like Justin Herbert. I know. Let me explain this. Where it's like he's really smart, and when we interviewed him, he was really well aware of his flaws and what he needed to work on. I feel like a lot of players, they don't focus on their flaws. They almost, if that kind of makes sense, they almost ignore them. And he seemed like a really smart guy that had the whereabouts of I struggle with this. I need to work on that. And when he said that, I was like, I think this guy will work out because I think he's going to be coachable. He's going to be able to do all that. And we kind of see that he struggled this year, had an injury and then struggled after the injury. It was a weird little thing he had, but this was the Connor Staine start. I think he finally put everything together, and I think he's going to just keep improving because I think he's super coachable, super funny guy, nice guy. We had a talk with him, and I'm a big fan of Connor Staine.
And, I mean, staying on the Justin Herbert comparison, it's such a low effort, delivery with so much power. Justin Herbert's out there, unexpectedly throwing a 70-yard bomb. Yeah. Connor Staine, if you get him on the football field, the gridiron, I could see that guy throwing 60 plus yards. He's got a cannon of an arm. When he was drafted, the hype around him was this is a guy who's throwing 93 to 96, and that doesn't grow on trees. At the big league level, you see it all the time, but in terms of starting pitchers to sit 92 or 92, 93 plus, that doesn't happen all that often. So it's really easy velocity for him. That's awesome. I mean, it's just great feel for pitching though too. He's shown that. I like that his strikeout rate is actually increasing as he's going up the levels, and I think that shows he's starting to grow into kind of the rest of his arsenal more. That fastball got him drafted so highly, but it's the other pitches that have to come around for him to be a good pitcher. And so seeing more strikeouts, sort of an indication that he is figuring out the rest of that arsenal. So I think it is a big thing. In terms of talent, I don't think he's that much behind, Chase Dollander. And I mean, Sean Sullivan is a guy who doesn't really get by on a ton of pure talent. So what's stopping Connor Staine from really ascending into that group? So that's a really exciting storyline to be watching. He's got as much upside as really anyone in the system outside of a few guys. So
we have now. So when you wrote that article, was that a Harry Potter reference?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was.
We have Harry Potter and Justin Herbert in the Spokane big three.
We need to come up with something for Chase Dollander. That'll be next. So we have
a random comp, yeah.
Yeah, Harry Potter, Justin Herbert as the key cogs in that rotation. Chase Dollander, maybe we'll be working on that one. That's what makes the big three.
And it was more than the big three. I think there's a Cole Carrick I think he's finally taking that next step, and maybe everybody it's heating up quite literally in the Northwest League, so maybe everybody's taking that step up. But Carrick I think we have more fans in the comments than ever, or Cole Carrick fans, I must say, not BSB fans, but people love Cole Carrick. Is there are you buying into the hype?
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny because when we drafted him, like I bought in too much last year, and when he was in college, he had a shoulder injury, I guess. And so when I saw the pick, and I was looking at just like his stats, looking on underneath the hood at his approach, at the chase rate, the contact rates, and stuff, I'm like, I don't love this, but clearly he's shown like, okay, I'm healthy now, and you have to take that bigger perspective view and realize, kind of like a Ryan Ritter, like he's gonna do a lot of things really, really well. But this bat, I do buy the bat. He makes a ton of contact. He might always be a really aggressive hitter, but if he's continuing to make contact like he is, and I think there's some raw power for him to develop into there. So the upside with him is as high as, really any positional prospect in this system. Like, because I mean, he's got, elite speed. Like it's 70 grade speed. He's got a huge arm. He can play all the defense. I mean, we've given the spiel many times. So like if he can just hit a decent amount, that's going to be such a fun player.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fail safes. Like, there's a lot of, like, if he doesn't work out at center or shortstop, it's like, oh, try center field. If that doesn't work, try corner. He's got a lot of backup plans. Yeah,
I mean, he could be that ultimate utility guy that, a lot of teams end up being built on. You think of like a Chris Taylor. Ben Zobrist is always someone that comes to mind, as the championship utility guy. And, Cole Carrick, again, the upside is through the roof for like a double-digit home run guy, 20, 30 stolen bases, and then the defense everywhere. That's a rare player. So
and I will say those super utility guys are never dudes that are in the top 100. They're always dudes that kind of come out of nowhere in terms of like the MLB sphere. They kind of come out of nowhere.
And yeah, I mean, with Cole Carrick, I think he's someone that should be pushing for that. I don't think he's gotten enough attention, even on the Rockies prospect list. And like that's a guy who at this point, Sterling Thompson, it's like Cole Carrick looks like a better prospect right now than Sterling Thompson.
Are we real quick? Are we going to update our rankings soon? Because I think we should.
I think we do need to. Yeah.
You keep asking me these questions. I'm like, I actually kind of want to just rank them.
Like just off the dome. Is he a top 10 prospect? Yeah, we do need to get speaking of that here, these things can come to life pretty quick. So in the next couple of weeks, we will have our midseason BSB prospect update.
There you go.
Expect Cole Carrick to be someone who, I think I'm trying to remember where he was in ours. It was like, I want to say just outside the top 10, or right around number 10. So he might be taking a couple spots up, which when you're at that position in a list, like to move up a couple spots is pretty significant. So
yeah, it only gets harder and harder to move up as as you go forward. So I'm gonna take a quick look real quick. He ended up being 18.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
We got to pull up the individual.
Well, I think we have a couple MLB guys, like Goodman's on here.
Well, we need to assign blame on that, like who put him at like 20.
Yeah.
Figure out who needs to. We got to, pour the.
Aaron had him at 20. You had him at 8-16. I had him at 13. You mean?
Yeah, I take blame. Yeah, 16 was even at the beginning of the season a little too low. So. Yeah. Cole Carrick, he's gonna get his laurel.
We're sorry.
we are sorry. Please continue to be this super utility guy. I like secretly in my head, I think of him as like a Mookie Betts now. Sounds not like actually like, I mean, Mookie Betts the hitter is like great, but we've all seen what Mookie Betts has done over the last few years. Like obviously one of the best defensive outfielders in a really long time, and then just like, oh, I could play second, I could play short. They should play Mookie Betts at catcher at some point. The Dodgers really should. And then like Cole Carrick, Mookie Betts can like get.
If I was the Dodgers, I would play him at every position. He'd be the first player to start every position.
He's very well capable. Like maybe not first for Freddie Freeman's purpose, but
one game,
catcher.
Just like one game, so he plays at every single position for a season. I don't think anybody's done that, so should be fun.
Cole Carrick will be the guy though to actually do it.
Let's talk about another, I want to say top prospect. Maybe I know the MLB guys love him, or MLB prospect guys love him. Dion Jorge. Where are you at with him?
I mean, I'm trying to think of. Wait, do you still have the prospect list and like
I do.
individual?
Yeah, I do.
Where did I have him going preseason? I'm trying to think because I know I was like pretty high on him. I want to say he was probably around 10 to 12 for me.
Yeah, he was 18 for you.
Okay. All right. Then like I haven't adjusted my thinking too much. Like coming into the season, I was a little bit down on the bat overall. Like I knew this is a guy who's gonna make contact, like he's gonna hit his line drives, but the defense hasn't sold me at all. Like
No.
I don't know if this is a shortstop. Maybe he starts playing some more center field, but Cole Carrick has actually pushed him up off shortstop like a lot. Like Cole Carrick wasn't playing shortstop because it's like, oh, the other top prospect on this team is the shortstop. But now Cole Carrick is getting time at short. So Jorge's glove, a little suspect. The power, though, is really where his slug is 318. And that is like, we talked about Braden Ward. If Braden Ward's slug was 318, it'd be kind of like, all right, that makes sense. Like he's just the super scrappy guy, not trying to hit for power. Like Dion Jorge, though, like the speed isn't quite there in the same level as it is with a lot of these other guys. The defense, again, not. Just I'm starting to see a lot of things coming together for him right now. But fortunately, he does draw walks and does hit line drives, so that on-base percentage is good. So I just see like a guy, like you throw a 55 hit grade on him, and then everything else just seems like, average or below, and that doesn't quite justify the hype he was getting.
Yeah, and he's probably going to spend the rest of the year in Spokane. And like you said, there's not a lot of power to his game. His frame, scouts are saying his frame won't build power. I think that's a weird thing to scout, but defense isn't really there right now. But he's super young, and we see defense get cleaned up more often than not with infielders that are super young. So I'm not that worried about it. One more prospect for you. Let's go Kyle Karros. Where are you? Where's the hype train at with him?
Yeah, and he was someone that I slept on, kind of like Cole Carrick. And the Rockies deserve credit for seeing through the injury with both these guys. I forget what the injury was with Karros. I want to say it was like an ankle. So a little bit of like a, unorthodox injury to impact like a hitter, but really any injury can impact a hitter. But Kyle Karros, another guy who coming into the season, it's sort of like, is the bat, going to be impactful enough? Like he's a bat first guy. He's a third baseman. Might have to play even like first base at some point in the future a little bit. So the bat has to come through, and it has. I mean, he's one of the best at bats in the system already, and there's power there. There's raw power. He's got a big frame. So Kyle Karros, I like the upside as he continues to get comfortable at the pro ranks. Certainly a top 30 guy for me now. I think he was, I think, a top 30 guy for me before the season, but he's moving up probably in the top 20 now, if not just around that 20 spot. So again, Cole Carrick, Kyle Karros, Rockies deserve credit for just like looking beyond the numbers and realizing, oh, this guy, the talent level's there. And when they're healthy, they're going to be able to perform, at a higher level than what we're seeing.
Trying to find Karros. I don't think you had him ranked.
And I guess it's possible because we cut it. We tried to do mostly just the top 30. So
yeah,
he might have been someone just outside.
I don't think any of us had him ranked though, so that might have been why. So yeah, you said it. I like Karros. First base, he's gonna have to get the slugging up and stuff, but Rockies saw through the injury. I think this last draft, they've proven more people wrong than I would have expected.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not going to run into the draft too much, otherwise we will be here a while.
Yeah,
but the Rockies drafts they're solid. Like if you look in these last few drafts, like the post Bradich era, where the kind of chain of command got shuffled around. I mean, 2020 was that first draft without. I'm pretty sure that was the first draft without.
No, it was 2021. Schmidt did it while in interim.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It was the full time. So 2022 was his first full one, but 2021 sort of.
Well, and I guess always the funny thing, too, is that, like, it was like the drafts were sort of run by Bill Schmidt before he became the GM. So it's sort of like now the fact that he is not the guy, like, running the draft, is like maybe helping the Rockies out a little bit, which he's gotten so much credit for that. I think that the guys that they do have in that scouting department are very good. So, Rockies have this draft class is looking, amazing. Chase Dollander, Sean Sullivan, we already talked about those guys. And there's a couple more guys in Fresno. I guess we can hop down in there. First, we'll give Jake Snider a little bit more. We just got to give him credit, try to, push his way up to AA. He had a 1,424 OPS this week with 3 homers. I know one of them at least was like super clutch, and I'm forgetting the specific.
He had a game-tying grand slam, but bottom of the ninth, 2 outs.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So it's like as good as it possibly gets. He was one of those guys brought into the organization sort of just to fill out a gap, and he's saying like, yeah, I kind of just want another chance at this actually. So I think he's someone who just has to get a shot at AA at some point soon.
Whenever you see someone that like leads the minor league in something, it's either they're insanely good at like AAA, or they need to be called up because they're nowhere near where they should be. And I think Snider is the second. Like Fresno was a joke. He should have never been in Fresno. But
no, exactly. Like in Spokane, clearly not enough of a challenge. So get him to Hartford. Let's see if that starts to slow him down.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just been crazy. Jumping down though, our final full season affiliate, Fresno Grizzlies, 4-2 on the week. They're in second place in the California League behind the stupid Modesto Nuts. They just have
which they just took series out of. So
yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So they're gaining ground. That roster is insane. Like if you want to just watch like a team of future all-stars, watch the Modesto Nuts. It's ridiculous. But Fresno Griz, they've got talent there, and this is a team filled mostly with those draft guys from last season. Talking about that, wanted to spin this down there. The first guy, he has been the talk of the town for that team. Jake Kaminska, 10 strikeouts this week in 6 innings. He's up to 63 strikeouts in 52 innings with a 2.08 ERA. If I'm not mistaken, he was the 9th round draft pick. Like you're finding, I don't know if that you can't quite call a guy like a gem yet in low A, but he's dominating, that level. 9th round pick. You usually don't find guys like that in the 9th round. So Jake Kaminska is just cooking down there.
Yeah, like kind of like what you just said. I'll start with the Modesto Nuts. I did the morning recap for Aaron because he was busy, and every single time we got to Fresno, I was like, give the pitchers a little bit of a break because this lineup in Modesto is crazy. And then Jake Kaminska comes and just tames the lineup. So there's that. We also had some relievers that shut them down. But with these late round picks, you're really hoping like one of them turns into like a back end of the rotation guy. And I think we have a couple like a Blake Adams, a Jake Kaminska. We have a couple like I think out of that group of guys, I think one of them could really turn into a pretty good back of the rotation guy. We might have some good bullpen pieces too. But all around, like the pitching in Fresno is so fun.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people just saying that right now the Rockies' weakest link is the bullpen, and in some ways that's true. They've gotten beaten down by injuries already this season, but the Rockies are going to develop relievers. And they're the guys that are currently starting games in the minors. Those
Tyler,
are guys.
I gotta ask you a question because my friend asked me this. He said, "Have you ever seen a team's fan base say I have faith in the bullpen? Our bullpen is good."
Well, I've seen people just like rioting on Twitter and all that, and on Reddit when I go on there, people are rioting about this bullpen, and they're like, "This is the worst bullpen I have ever seen." And it's like, guys, did you live through the 2010s? Like, but it is like every team, unless you have like one of the 5 best bullpens, everyone is like, this bullpen sucks. Every bullpen goes through a rough patch. Like it's inevitable.
We had a couple games during the win streak where they shut it down, but no one will talk about that. But I do think like every team needs these bullpen pieces that we tend to have. Cade Denton went out there, bases loaded, 1 out, struck out a guy, and then struck out Lázaro Montes, who's like the best hitter in minor league baseball right now, top 100 guy. Like Cade Denton injured most of the year so far, but making his mark.
Yeah, and the rest of that bullpen, that we really got to hyper focus on these guys. I think they all. We've given Wellington Herrera's gotten a ton of hype. He's striking out everybody, but Bryson Hammer has not gotten quite enough attention yet. And when he got drafted, I mean, great opportunity to drop the hammer time pun. Like, oh, he throws a curveball, a hammer curveball, but it's like very, very legit hammer curveball. Good changeup too. He's a lefty that's into the mid-90s. So Bryson Hammer has all the upside in the world. And then another lefty with all the upside is Sam Weatherly. And unfortunately, he's in the like we were hoping he'd emerge as a starter, but between Hammer, Weatherly, and Herrera, all of them are lefties, which is kind of ironic. Very good, all of them. And at some point, we're going to see a couple of those guys pushed up to Fresno, just when or to Spokane when there are promotions. Again, those are sort of all seasonal, and when there's like multiple at a time, it's hardly ever just one promotion. So we're going to see some of those guys pushed up. That bullpen in Fresno is crazy.
It would be way too easy for us if they did it like one every day. They got to do it all in one day, all 1 hour. They'll be like, here's 50 promotions.
And it'll probably be like the day after we record at some point, and then
it'll be retroactively, like they're already getting ready to play, and then they'll be posted.
Yeah, and then we're like behind and freaking out and not ready to cover it. But the rest of that bullpen in Fresno, or not bullpen, the rotation in Fresno, Jack Mahoney, another draft pick. He was the Rockies' 4th overall selection. Not, Drew Goodman likes to say, he kind of confuses me when he says like team's number 1 pick. In Drew Goodman verbiage, Mahoney, the number 4 pick for the Rockies, 8 Ks over 5 innings. He did give up 2 home runs. Again, that lineup's crazy. It was great, though, seeing Mahoney hit 8 strikeouts against a really quality lineup and just continue to find his groove. He's someone maybe doesn't emerge as a starter, but Mahoney's another guy. He might get pushed to the bullpen at some point, and there's a ton of potential there.
Yeah, Mahoney let up 2 runs. They were both against Lazaro Montes, so it wasn't it just happens. Like,
yeah, if anyone plays like Dynasty Fantasy Baseball leagues, like I've seen in a couple, I play on one like the Fangraphs platform called Otanu, and like there's not that many prospects that people own, but I just saw the Lazaro Montes auction, like it ran up very pricey, so that guy is crazy good. But the one other starter that deserves a little love there in Fresno, Isaiah Coupe. I mean, we've given him his share of love, but this guy struck out 7 guys in 4 innings this week. He's 5th in the organization now in strikeout rate, running a 6.9, very nice walk rate. He's got it going on. Another guy kind of like Bryson Hammer, just crazy ability to just like whip the baseball. And I think that gives Coupe just this really interesting profile where he can throw breaking balls unlike anyone else in the organization. Maybe Justin Lawrence and his sweeper. That's about it.
Yeah, he's a future bullpen dude. He's going to be so good at it. I mean, he is. I think it was like the best rotation per minute in like college baseball last year.
Yeah, I think his average was over 3,000 last year, or about 3,000. Like you hear about a lot of 3,000 RPM breaking balls. Like an average of that though is crazy. You saw a lot of guys who average like 2,800, and they're frequently getting up to 3,000. Like now, Coupe it's an airbending breaking ball. It's nuts. It's so fun.
Let's go to the hitters. Braylon Wimmer kind of comes back up to, I guess, outer space with us, and it's so fun to watch Braylon Wimmer just go out there and play. He had a couple really clutch hits, a couple big RBIs for the Fresno Grizzlies. So they had a lot of close games, so they needed these RBIs. What's the ceiling on Braylon Wimmer?
I mean, I think now just the fact that he did come back to earth sort of showed like, okay, maybe the ceiling is not like a good MLB player, like an everyday guy, but I think he could become that, backup second baseman, backup third baseman that hits for some power. He seems like so far he's been streaky with the Rockies organization. So if that's the case, I mean, I think you almost want your utility guys to be streaky, where a couple weeks out of the year, they're going to be able to like get your team wins and they're not starters. So I think that's sort of his future role is that a fifth infielder on a roster, sixth infielder, might pick up some outfield at some point in the future. That's usually how the Rockies do these things with guys who aren't like top prospects. They get them those extra positions. But he's one of my favorite guys from last year's draft class, and there's definitely the talent to get to the big leagues.
Anybody else you want to talk about in Fresno?
Just real quick, Caleb Hobson, because I know he's not been a guy mentioned a lot. He's a speed threat, and the Rockies they always will need speed at in Coors Field. I think that's an underrated skill there. But since May 11th, he basically a month now, he's hitting 346, and the power, I think his slugging is sub 400, so he's not like a power guy. But this is looking like a legit table setter in this Rockies organization. So definitely getting higher on Caleb Hobson. I think should be viewed as a legit prospect now, and he might be someone getting that Spokane promotion before the end of the season. But yeah, we gotta spin this to the ACL Rockies. We have a big thing at the end of this, so we'll hit the ACL Rockies real quick, and just to speed through the rehab guys. A lot of guys rehabbing there. Ryan Rolison, 3 scoreless innings. Gavin Hollowell, 2 scoreless innings in rehab, and Freeland. I think Freeland was 2 scoreless also. So those 3 guys getting back up to speed. But the real fun topic here is all of these international prospects who are just raking right now. Derek Bernard, Kevin Hidalgo, Byron Ledesma, and Robert Calaz. And I mean, there's other guys there that didn't necessarily perform that well this week. Bernard, Hidalgo, and Ledesma all had 5 hits this week, which that was, led the team. All their averages were like over 300. They did not play that. I think they had like 2 days off this week for some reason. And then Robert Calaz walked 5 times. But I know, talk about Robert Calaz a little bit.
You brought up his walks. His walks are pretty funny because his walks are like the base open and the pitcher obviously doesn't want it's like a walk where it's like if you're not taking a walk there's a problem. They're like not really pitching to him as most of his walks. I figured out people love him because I went to go I like to just shop for Rockies prospects that I don't have, like baseball cards, like signed. And I try to get his and it's insanely expensive. So I was like, all right, well, then I looked it up on like some weird forum website, like sports trading website, and people love him apparently. So people love Calaz, the investors, the people that put their own money into this. And there's good reason. He hits like Baseball Savant has done this weird thing to our head where like we see red and we like love it. His exit velocity is like 99, 100 percentile type exit velocity. It's next level. But he's going to strike out a lot. He's going to be a guy that I think is really hyped. I think he's going to be soon a top 100 guy if he hits Fresno. I also think when he hits Fresno, he's going to struggle. I think these pitchers are going to take advantage of him, and I think he's got a lot of growing pains to go through. But keep an eye on Calaz. I know Foolish Bailey had a whole segment about him, so he's maybe that's why I went up in price, but no longer a hidden gem or hidden-ish gem. He's very mainstream now, and people are picking up on his ability to hit a baseball. I will say we draft him as a center fielder. He's already playing corner in the ACL. That really worries me. That means he's not going to play center in the MLB, just straight up. So you got to hit if you're a corner outfielder. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where there's some delicate balances. We see it with Yanquiel Fernandez where when he's not making a ton of contact, like his profile really falters. So, just hope. I think I've seen more positive signs from Calaz than I was expecting to. So that gives me hope that he can continue developing. And yeah, he really shouldn't be in the ACL for much longer, even though he's still 18 and a half. Like he's at the age that you should be in the ACL. But he's clearly way too good for playing there right now. That's it's a fun group of guys there. Someone's got to get Fresno needs a boost in their lineup, especially after losing Jake Snider. So really I don't think it'll be Calaz, but again, we have Derek Bernard, Kevin Hidalgo, Byron Ledesma are all, very, very solid prospect. There's Eric Bautista is another one down there who's very solid. Someone's got to get promoted. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on with that group. And then Brad Cumbest, another guy, he was drafted, I think 2022, 14th round. He literally was a contributor to the Mississippi State football team. Like he's a super athlete. He's big frame. I've always comped him to Sam Hilliard in ways like athletic, powerful, not polished. So Brad Cumbest, though, they kind of slowed him. This was his pro debut, if I'm not mistaken, in the ACL this year. He's done pretty solid. So hopefully he's able to get a little bit of a move on. But now we gotta spin to the Dominican Summer League, and we want to take some time here. This is stuff that doesn't get covered very much from us, but really anywhere else in the Rockies community. The Rockies
bring it up though. Like we don't even cover that much, but we're the only people that give it any sort of light. So
yeah, other than like the day the signings happen, like people, find reports online and post them into their articles and stuff. We try to do our own like little independent analysis. We have people who really, do dig into that. I can't take credit for the things that are going to really be said. Like they're not my personal observations, putting the binoculars on and doing the scouting. But we do have guys in our, on our staff and that are in our group chat that are always dishing on these guys because they do watch them and they get extra information on them. So
It's
we're a DSL hub.
They're quite literally scouting the scouts. Like they're trying to find these reports on these guys. We have some dudes that are like follow these guys on Instagram and like look at their Instagram story for like radar data. It's like, oh, this guy's throwing 98, and then that's how you know, I guess. But this is a fun group of guys. Again, these guys are all really young. Probably won't even hear about them past us for another probably 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is, especially with this DSL Colorado team, it's really interesting what's going on there. These guys they were all signed this year in 2024, like this most recent signing period. So a lot of them signed at 16. I think Ashley Andujar, the number one guy they signed, is still 16 years old. He's playing organized professional baseball, but a lot of these other guys are 17. And I mean, in that league, if you're 18 and under, like you're very much you're the right age for this league. But when you're 16 and 17, like, you're a year behind most of the guys you're playing against. And that is the case with all of these DSL Colorado guys, the top prospects on that team. They were signed like months ago. And to be eligible to sign, I think you just have to be 16. So super young roster. I just mentioned Ashley Andujar. Talked about Dion Jorge. I think there's a lot of boxes that they both check. Like Andujar, I think the hope with Andujar though is more polish on the defensive side. Jorge though has more of that. He has a bigger frame to grow into. Ashley Andujar already going to slot in as like a top 20 prospect for this team. That's how the prospect heads really like to do that. He was a top 20, top 30 international prospect in this period. So Ashley Andujar definitely has MLB upside, like to be a starting middle infielder. I think that's the projection for him as of now. Just a high contact, good glove, either at shortstop or second base. So can never have enough of those athletes covering the middle positions. So getting someone like Andujar into the system, I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, I mean, he's very, very rarely do we see these 16-year-olds crack a top 30 list, and he was like 16th in MLB pipeline. So, and it's really funny because these guys are 16th, and you're like, who are these guys? Like, because we don't know these guys. Like, this is like, these are guys that like the Rockies will scout at like age 14. So, I mean, we were already scouting guys that are like, probably too young to be scouted for baseball, but they are. So we're still like the Rockies must really. There's like a couple $1 million we gave this guy. So a lot of confidence within the org that Ashley Andujar will, and a lot of confidence within scouts that he'll become a really good player.
Yeah, and just gotta like reflect on some of these past international guys. Adel Amador, we started the pod with him. He signed for like $1.5 million, and we've seen multiple guys sign for more than that now. Of course, I think there's some inflation in the amount of money available, but Amador signed like 5 years ago for 1.5. Like, it shouldn't have inflated that much more. It just goes to show the Rockies are getting guys who, as prospects, entering pro ball, viewed on similar trajectories. Amador Call, as we just mentioned, Dion Jorge, those guys both signed for a lot more than Amador, and you see Ashley Andujar is just the next guy in that line. The Rockies are finding success there, so that's the main guy to be looking out for. A couple others that are standing out so far. These guys are very far away, less certain than someone like Andujar. There's Christian Arguelles. I'm butchering that. I actually should. I took a lot of years of Spanish, so I should be better with these pronunciations. But a lot of these names I've never seen the certain names like.
Yeah, there's a couple in the system that are definitely really local.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never seen Arguelles. I will learn how to say it at some point. Arguelles. That's probably the better pronunciation. Arguelles.
The 2 L's, I don't think makes it Y.
Because I don't know, because the double L is usually always the Y. But anyway, he's a really solid skills outfielder, like a lot of contact. He could play center field, speedy, not a lot of power, and I don't know if there's much power projection there, but he's someone that could really well develop into a top of the lineup type of hitter, premium position. There's Ariel Dehigo, power potential at third base. Nicholas Ortiz, a catcher with a lot of upside behind the plate. The bat has, it's been 6 games for these teams, but he's hit so far. We hope that continues. And then the 2 guys I'm really going to be keeping an eye on, Oscar Pujols and Gregory Sanchez. the two top pitching signings. Pujols throws a ton of strikes, advanced arsenal for his age. He's mid-90s already, or at least touching mid-90s. Then Gregory Sanchez. Baseball America reported that he's been up to 97 already. Again, these guys are 16, 17 years old. Like Gregory Sanchez hit 97 before his 18th birthday. Very, very much implied that he's going to be an upper 90s guy, like sitting upper 90s, touching 100. That's always just going to get people excited. So this is a stacked roster, DSL Colorado. If you are the box score hunters, you can't get enough box score action. DSL Colorado's first priority if you're looking into the DSL box scores. DSL Colorado, it's primarily the guys who were just signed this year. DSL Rockies, a lot of guys that were signed last year. Clearly the organization isn't pushing them as fast. Like you think last year, Robert Kalaz signed, Yaiker Reyes signed, who's now in the ACL as well. So these are guys who moving along a little bit slower, but still a lot of talent even there. The Rockies they do have a lot of talent in this sphere of the game.
Yeah, and it's really tough to compare DSL rosters to DSL rosters, but the Colorado squad's been looking great. They Gregory Sanchez. I keep trying to say Soto, but not Gregory Soto. Gregory Sanchez is mowing down batters. Again, box score watching because they don't record these things. These things don't. This is like underground baseball basically. Like we just see a box score and that's it.
Yeah, and they have a nice stadium there. I think they do get some kind of video feed, but obviously you can't get that with MILB TV. Sparing looks. I think the players, like you mentioned, are usually the ones posting any video that we're getting. So not a lot to really read and scout right now. But it's easy to do that box score scouting and know, okay, this guy's gonna come over and be a pretty good player. But it's imperfect.
Yeah, DSL is weird because some teams kind of don't invest in it. Some teams don't even have two DSL teams. Some teams have two and then don't really care about it, or some teams have two but only use one. And then I think the Rockies, we clearly put so much, whether that's money or more likely just attention towards this type of stuff. And so keep your eye on it. A lot of teams don't use these Hispanic countries, which seem to just baseball players seem to just grow there. I don't know how to explain it. Every other person there is a baseball player. I don't know. It's great stuff. It's almost like a Canadian hockey player. That's a Dominican baseball player. It's just
exactly. It's so much more ingrained in the culture, and per capita, it's way more baseball players. They're smaller countries, but the average teenager is a good baseball player, and the above average teenager is a potential pro prospect there. So it's a really, really promising hotbed, and the Rockies, they've bought into that. They have they have two rosters down there. A lot of organizations. I think most have two at this point, but I think there's occasional teams with one.
There's 4 teams. Angels Athletics are the 2 that I can think of right now.
I don't understand why you wouldn't, but the Rockies sign a lot of players, and
a lot of them are trying to get
Yeah.
I don't get why teams don't invest in stuff like this because it's really not that expensive if you look at the baseball. If you zoom out a little bit, but whatever.
Yeah, and it's a great lesson just of baseball being about the prospect world. Getting the quantity of prospects up is bigger than having the quality up because a lot of it comes down to the individuals, and they're going to get better. The more lottery tickets you buy, the better your chances are of winning it. So don't buy lottery tickets. I don't endorse. But
go to the nearest store, buy as many as you can.
Buy 100. If you win, share the proceeds. Anything else for the good of the cause?
I don't think so. We got some good draft content coming out soon, so watch out for that. We need to schedule another draft pod.
Yeah, we're cooking behind the scenes a little bit here. Yeah. I don't think people it's gonna be too much when it does come out. I think we've already discussed that. I sent you a handful of stats. We've discussed kind of how we're gonna outline some of the stuff, and it's this is too much. But if you want more than you're gonna find anywhere else, we're gonna it's just fun for us. So it's gonna be out there. It's gonna be readily available. The draft is gonna be great.
Maybe another draft pod in the next couple of weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, because we have a month. I think it is a month. It's less than it's less than a month and a week. Like we are within like this as of this weekend, the draft will be a month away. So we need to, I think goal should be to have like 2 draft pods by then. Drop questions in the DMs on Twitter if you are starting to dig in a little bit more. If you need some, a primer, I'm always happy to just throw information people's way, give some thoughts. I mean, I don't like to dump on Twitter because I don't think people really want to pay that much attention to the draft.
No one cares. I'm gonna be real.
It's guys, we need to step it up as a community. More draft interest. It's so fun.
We have pick 3. Like I said in the group chat, our pick is so high we can't really F it up.
No, and I mean the Rockies have, which is I think some people are going to be like thinking of like Greg Reynolds and stuff. That's a dark day. But this year there's so many good players available at the top of the draft, and we sort of alluded, hey, Sterling Thompson, you're not going to fall off. Please don't fall off the top 100 yet because we need to add another, top 100 guy in the draft before you do. That's going to happen. The Rockies are going to get a guy who's probably a top 15 prospect in all of Major League Baseball immediately, if not top 20. So great things are coming on that front, both for the Rockies and for our content. Great things are coming. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We'll keep this DSL coverage up as much as we can too. Again, you're not getting that much anywhere else. We have our ear, on the door. We're eavesdropping because you can't really see anything, as we've mentioned. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for us. You guys stay well out there. I have to check the Rockies box score, see if Amador got a hit. Otherwise, go Rocks in the minor league affiliates. Woo!
Thank you for watching and listening.